I am Carolina Hernandez from the Philippines, and I'm supposed to have been at the creation of a lot of think tank networks in Southeast Asia and the broader Asia-Pacific region. Okay, we have had so many attributed achievements, but the achievements are mostly from outside the people that observe ASEAN. Among them would be the establishment of certain norms for cooperation and in spite of what shall we say official governments think about these issues, but the think tanks, well, ASEAN has promoted that kind of role already to get as many of the actors in the region as possible together to talk about critical issues that affect the region. Well, you know, opportunities are also challenges, right? Because they're two sides of the same coin. But we live in a new environment where you have a lot of complex things that are going around. So those are challenges, but at the same time, opportunities for ASEAN to take sort of like, to take advantage of. One of the most important things is because of the power shift that is taking place all over the world, and particularly in our part of the world, ASEAN as a group of small countries and middle-sized countries can probably help to ameliorate the competition among the big powers in the region. Okay. Some people think that there are no implications, but I think that, well, the reason why there are no implications for some people is because of the fact that the integration in the EU is different from the integration in ASEAN. In the first place, in EU, you have a supranational authority, but in ASEAN, we don't have that. We are allergic to supranational authority. However, I think that the Brexit is a kind of experience that will teach ASEAN to avoid the pitfalls that have occurred in the Brexit. Secondly, I think that it also invites our leaders to pay attention to the opinion of every ASEAN person, whether the person is a citizen, a subject, or an object of the significant actors in ASEAN. Meaning to say that there are a lot of people in ASEAN that feel that they are left out of this particular project of building an ASEAN community. And I think this is why our leaders in 2014, I think it was, decided that they were going to have a new approach to community building, and that is a people-oriented / people-centered ASEAN. Yeah. In ASEAN, I will give you an example, okay? In ASEAN, we were able to build the community, well, it's not yet a community, it's work in progress, but we were able to establish friendly relations with each other and convert the sub-region of Southeast Asia from a very, shall we say, uncertain, unstable, poor sub-region into one that is at present supposed to be, shall we say, used as an exemplar, but by our neighbors. And for the longest time, I have been thinking about what made ASEAN be the way it is today. And I think we need to credit not only all the other countries, but particularly the policy that Indonesia, the largest in ASEAN, took, which is it tried to ignore its personal interest by exerting power on the basis of its size and influence, and tried to sort of like, some people call it like they sort of like put themselves, they put themselves in a cage and they threw the key into the ocean. So I think that the biggest country in any region, whether it's Northeast Asia or South Asia, will have to have the biggest power also behave in the same way that Indonesia behaved in relation to the sub-region. This is probably very simplistic, but you know, already we have been trying to, I think you know that the plus 3 countries, namely Northeast Asian countries, China, Japan, and South Korea, they were not meeting with each other, but it was through the sort of like, not mediation, but ASEAN provided a venue for the 3 countries to get together, and now they have been getting together on their own. So I think that we can continue to play that kind of role if given the opportunity. And if, you know, this is going to be very tough because we need to have changes of our minds, you know, the mindsets, in order for us to be able to meet the challenges of the future. But I'm not sure that countries in any region in the world are prepared to do that right now. Okay, it has changed its meaning. When we first started to be track 2 diplomats, what we did was to invite all relevant actors in their personal capacity, from government, from academe, from the press or media, from everywhere, from the broader civil society, in their personal capacity, so that they can begin to discuss without any constraints about very sensitive issues. But right now, track 2 diplomacy has come to mean those meetings of think tanks and academe without the participation of the broader civil society or even individual officials from government. So it has changed. So track 1 is the official, track 2 is the unofficial academic think tank kind of thing, like epistemic communities. Track 3 would be the broader civil society, and the track 4 would be those that want to pull government down. Okay, in the evolution of ASEAN, the think tanks were very, very important because they were sources of informal policy thinking that governments can take into account. We were able, well, think tanks that about which I had broad experience, we were able to provide some kind of policy advice to government, which they were free to take or not take. So that is how we were able to help in the evolution of ASEAN. And we can also promote inter-regional cooperation with the ROK think tanks, as we have been doing in the past. For example, until the presidency of the impeached President Park, we were cooperating with the think tanks in ROK to promote the NAPC. Yeah. And even before this time, we were able to get the cooperation of personalities from ROK in terms of our extra-regional cooperation. So we built habits of dialogue and cooperation with those think tanks. In Southeast Asia today, we have the ASEAN Institutes of Strategic and International Studies, or ASEAN ICs. It's one of its most important, shall we say, programs is the Asia-Pacific Roundtable. And I would like to say, and this is very important, that there is an ROK intellectual that was part of the beginning of the APR. Yeah. Well, that is a tricky question because the TPP that the Obama administration promoted and everybody wanted to get on in it because it's more comprehensive than the other, the so-called RCEP, the Regional Cooperation Economic Partnership. And because the latter is only for trade. However, the TPP is more geostrategic than economic, precisely because the requirements are so difficult to, shall we say, to comply with. But RCEP is simpler, except it's narrower, and maybe we can all get together on the RCEP. But RCEP is not a Chinese invention; it's ASEAN that sort of tried to see. This is a very tricky thing because even in ASEAN, a lot of people think that it was China that promoted it. It's not. It is indigenous to ASEAN. Yeah. You know, the think tanks are very important because through our activities, we are able to form friendships that last in spite of all the difficulties that our respective countries face. And I think this is how we can promote better relations between ROK and ASEAN by relying on people-to-people contacts. Yeah. I would like to thank the people of Jeju for having me participate in another exciting conference, which is the Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity 2017. I was here 2 years ago, and it was a fantastic experience. You have such a beautiful province in Jeju. Yeah.